One of the great things about the Polkadot ecosystem is that it almost feels like it's a second chance for people that have missed the boat in investing in platforms on Ethereum that have performed really well, right? Because of the limitations of Ethereum, because of the scalability issues, you've got Polkadot, which is obviously touted at being bigger, better, faster, the usual that you see in this space. So what we do tend to see from time to time is, projects that are performing well also have similar projects that are popping up on Polkadot, for example. And so today I'm going to be talking about one which, a lot of Telegram communities are talking about, and they're comparing it to AVEE. You're familiar with AVEE and you kind of know how well it does on the secondary markets. Price wise, it's $482 a token. Not cheap. So if there is an opportunity for you to be able to get to that level of ownership from a token perspective, then why wouldn't you? Just stay tuned and let's delve in. My name's Feroz, decentralisedchain.com. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to learn more, get insights, get news, get analysis in terms of what's happening within the crypto space, then start now by hitting the like button below, subscribing, and don't forget to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Now, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about Konomi Network. It's an interesting project that I've come across. I've seen it mentioned in quite a few communities and various groups that I'm in. Ultimately, it's a full suite management solution to be able to manage your cross-chain crypto assets. What I like so far from the sort of general research that I've done on it, it's built on substrate, great development framework. That's always a positive. It also appears to have received a grant from the Web3 Foundation. I mean, these aren't just handed out to anybody, but it's always a good way to check future DOT projects whether they've been accepted for the grant application. But I think one thing you need to bear in mind when you look at this is that know that even though they've been accepted, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've delivered working software. But once again, these aren't really handed out just like that either. So there is a fair bit of, I suppose, due diligence that needs to be done before these grants are handed out. Bear in mind. I think the other bit that I also like, just around what do we actually mean by the management solution they have, right? What is that in its base form? Well, its base form, if we kind of have a look at the, let's have a look. So asset management solution, what we got here. So I would say when we look at the project, the idea is that you can hold all your crypto positions in place, trade your assets, earn interest through the decentralized markets. So as I said before in the opening of the video, if I had to compare this, I'd compare it to AVEE. Compare it to AVEE in terms of it's very similar in terms of what it does. That AVEE is also decentralized. It allows users to spend, borrow, earn interest on their crypto. So ultimately you're removing the middleman more than anything else, allowing borrowers to gain exposure to different cryptocurrencies without owning them. Right? Now, as I mentioned before, lots of projects coming out on the Polkadot ecosystem. Given where we are with Ethereum, the prices, the transaction fees alone, even if you want to make a couple of $100 swaps on Uniswap, transaction fees for that are coming to like $40, $50. It almost doesn't even feel like it's worth cashing out on a profit. It is becoming more of a whales game. That's just my opinion. So I can see why Konomi are building on substrate, because when Ethereum network clogs up, we can see it's being tested time and time again. Scaling is a massive issue. It needs to be addressed. Ethereum 2.0, it needs to hurry up and get here quick. So when we look at what Konomi is proposing as a product, we've got, let's have a look what we've got in their product section. Roll down a bit. We've got borrow and lend, cross-chain liquidity, asset management. So kind of analyze each of those. So The trade side allows users to access liquidity for assets in the ecosystem. They've also built in support for contracts. That's based on liquidity protocols, based on automated money markets. Interesting, what I notice is that there's also mention of long tail assets without restrictions. I'd like to see that in practice. I mean, a long tail strategy is only possible. You have some way of cost effectively delivering, say, your niche product. So as long as there are high fixed costs for each item, you'll always face a vicious circle in terms of high prices. It's, leading to low demand, leading to higher prices, leading to lower demands, etc. I mean, you can see this in asset management and mutual fund ETFs today that have fixed costs, which ultimately forces, I would say, the small mutual funds and ETFs have high fees, lower demands, and then once again, you're requiring higher fees again, etc., etc. So it goes on. There's also the lending side here. So, I mean, this is just a decentralized money market. I can see. Allows users to lend and borrow assets. It's based on the C collateralized debt position model. Fundamentally, it's just a debt position that is backed by an underlying pool of assets, just like you have an AVEE. And there's also a wallet, and that, the idea behind that is to aggregate all the positions as well as managing the positions in different protocols. The idea, I suppose, in its simplest form, is to be a one-stop shop, right? To manage all your assets on the DOT ecosystem, rather than having currency in this bank, currency in that bank, and then having to swap between various applications. That's always a positive. Let's check out the token utility, because tokens always need to have some form of utility in order to actually. Otherwise, why would you have a token in the first place? And so, looking at the overall ecosystem just at a high level, seems to be split over 3. That's what we've got here. But first and foremost, it's got the governance side, right? So what that means is that it's able to, it gives you the ability to be able to vote, right? And by voting, it may well be, pool fees might be introduced, or pool fees might be, taken up, taken lower down. It kind of gives the opportunity for token holders to be able to participate in that. Transaction fee burns, general, when it comes to this sort of governance side of things, you can look at it as there's a roadmap, there's some proposals, and you as a token holder have a say in what direction it goes. It might not be something that you agree with, it might be something that you do strongly agree with, and so you can push the product almost to kind of move in that direction. There's also user incentives. This is important because ultimately, when you do have a token, beyond just the secondary market value, there needs to be some sort of incentivization to bring users into the ecosystem, because without using the ecosystem, you're not necessarily going to get an upward buy pressure in terms of the token value, right? So here it looks like there would be large portions of the token reserved to encourage users to add liquidity, right? So it's a good play on the liquidity side. I like this. Once again, it helps attract users. And then lastly, we've got behind my head, I don't know if you can see it, but it says asset staking. Asset staking, once again, it's an opportunity to earn rewards. Like quite a few platforms that we have in DeFi, you stake your assets and you get rewarded. So that way it kind of forces you to hold, and you obviously get buy pressure as well in terms of price action. I did have a look at the GitHub earlier, actually. Let's have a look at the GitHub, because I think it's empty. It's empty. Now, it may well be that they just haven't made this GitHub public yet, private. So ideally, I would like to see something here, because I'll talk about that a bit later, because it really comes down to when you're looking at the roadmap, you want to see what's actually been developed from that perspective. Now, I think one of the things a lot of people are talking about is obviously private sale in the group, when pre-sale, when private sale, etc. And I think we kind of need to have a look at what some of those tokenomics actually end up looking like here. Jump on over to, but if we can find the white paper. I'm pretty certain on the white paper I did notice somewhere it mentioned the tokenomics side of things. Where we got it? It's somewhere down here. Here it is. Right. So tokenomics perspective. 100 million Kono tokens, the launch of the network. Fixed supply, so that's always good. 25% will be reserved for the sale. It's a decent portion of it, actually. Quite like that then. The rest of it's just split between marketing, developments, okay. And then you've got, it's interesting, they reserve some for ecosystem development and partnerships. They've got 15% reserved distribution for incentive plans. So this is kind of what I mentioned before earlier in terms of rewards, staking, all of those. You see, it's really to draw the user. Interestingly enough, when I do have a look through it, they've also got the 24 months of linear vesting. Know a little bit about how that works. Now, obviously, one of the key areas here is looking at the team. We've got to look at the team, look at the roadmap, right? Scroll down. Where's the roadmap gone? I had a roadmap here. Here we are. Here's the roadmap. So look at the roadmap. Okay, it's important because this is what the team need to deliver again. There seems to be a fair bit that has already happened in the roadmap. Be interested to know how far along or how much of this roadmap has been realized. When we talk about the teams, let's have a look. So when I did have a look, so you've got Konomi, they've got a LinkedIn page, and usually I tend to normally jump over to the people side of things. Exactly who's behind there, and we've got quite a few people. So look at the CEO. Good to see what the CEO's worked on in the past. So 10 years entrepreneur, tech startup experience, which, it's always good to see. They've been the COO for High Mall Indoor Navigations, tech-based, Singapore. There isn't really much. I mean, interesting enough though, LinkedIn I've noticed differs between various countries, right? So I'm from the UK, and usually our LinkedIn profiles are fairly up to date in terms of what we've done, where we've worked. But I've noticed with some of the Far East LinkedIn profiles, they're quite light, and maybe it's just something that they don't use. But it's, it makes it difficult sometimes to evaluate the individuals backing the project. I mean, kind of have a look at their CMO's experience. Interesting. I mean, they finished their degree recently in 2017, so 3 years out of university. But once again, I mean, I don't know, some of the numbers don't really tally up here. 4 years as a commodity broker, or maybe they work part-time as a commodity broker. Could be. Co-founder from 2018 after they finished university. It's interesting. But interestingly enough, they've all been working on Konomi for the past year, which is good to see. But equally, I'd love to have the team on the show. As I normally do, I interview teams, I interview projects and founders. Dig a bit more beneath the surface, find out exactly what they're all about. The other thing that I did actually see earlier mentioned, there was a post around, they did appoint an advisor, actually. Jonathan Diller joined the advisor committee of Konomi Network. And this individual here, they manage blockchain strategy at PayPal. This is interesting, actually, because I think this is quite bullish, depending on what that involvement actually is. So it'd be always interesting to dig a bit deeper here, because PayPal are in the crypto business now, right? This is good, and if we've got people that are working at PayPal who are also branching out into other projects that are opening up in blockchain space, then this can only be a good thing. But it's just something to bear in mind. I mean, certainly the chap seems fairly intellectual. Harvard University, University of Oxford. So pretty interesting. It's been a year at PayPal as well, so bear in mind. Right. So look, I mean, my final thoughts, as I said before, the Polkadot ecosystem is almost providing a second chance for the everyday person to get involved. Projects that have seen success on Ethereum, and maybe they haven't had the chance to jump on that success or jump on that train at the time. But I think what we do need to know more about is really the token economics behind this as well. I'm interested to see what their private sale, pre-sale prices are, whether they're still raising, whether they've done that raise, how much they're going to be releasing on the public sales, for example, what the initial market cap is. Because, there's two sides to everything here, right? There's people that are in it for the tech, and there are people that are in it to obviously bank, right? That's the hard truth of it. Something kind of we need to look at. Certainly worth keeping an eye out on this. Definitely jump into the Telegram channel. follow them on Twitter, and kind of see what's going on. I mean, the roadmap here says that a testnet was launched last year, or towards the end of last year. They've got support for swaps as well and decentralized money market. And if that is the case, and they're able to showcase a lot of that, then certainly for me, this project does seem to have some pretty decent legs to stand on. Especially in terms of what I mentioned before, if AVEE is kind of the platform that these guys are looking to replace, but within the dot ecosystem, then I've got high hopes on a number of areas for this. That's about it from me. I mean, if this is the type of content that you like, then certainly I would appreciate a like. I would certainly love it if you subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of Konomi. Where do you think this project is going? Is this something you're interested in? Do you think you'll be trying to get into the private sale, or do you think you'll try and catch it when it goes public? Let me know in the comments below. Stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next one.